one of the best things about Bread Radio is connecting with other folks that also love games just like us. So just wanted to highlight a partner podcast called Game Johns here, and that's GameJawns, Game Johns. Join Riley and her crew as they delve into everything games, from upcoming titles and nostalgic classics to game development and intriguing interviews. Learn and laugh alongside this ragtag team of indie devs. Whether you want to philosophize about the definition of games, discuss the hype behind virtual reality, or discover games you've never heard of, Game Johns is the crew for you. For all things Game Johns, check out allmylinks.com/GameJohns and check out their Twitter at GameJohns, GameJawns, for all news and announcements. Now to your regularly scheduled Bread programming. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bread Radio. This definitely isn't the second time we're doing this take. I'm your host, August Acker, aka Bread, joined as always by my co-host, Greg Toplitsky. How you doing, Greg?
Well, I'm feeling a lot better now, August, that the Claude Cat burglar was caught by police just using a spool of yarn. Can you believe that?
Anyway, Bread Radio is a podcast with video games, and we're at episode 20, double digits. We did it. We made it. Today's date is the 7th of January, 2021. We did it. 2020 is in the rear view. All of the world's problems are solved. We have nothing to worry about, and we're still podcasting about video games. Listen to Bread Radio wherever you do. Podcast apps like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Browsers work as well. You can also find it on YouTube if you'd like to see the video. We're going to get Greg's shining face on the video feeds in the coming weeks as well. If you'd like to support and get some merch on a nice coffee mug or t-shirt or even a windbreaker, you can do that, breadradio.live. And if you'd like to support the cast directly, you can do so on patreon.com/breadradio. Last thing I have, if you have any emails, corrections, questions, best ways to cook potatoes, you can message breadradiolive@gmail.com. Now that we're through that, let's get into the show. Greg, how was your week? What's new in your world?
It was pretty good. I mean, work and stuff. I've actually had to go in the office a bunch to train people how to use our laptops. So, it's like a catch-22 if it's like nice to be around people, but it's also like you're around people and
right.
The calendar might have changed, but the world hasn't too much. So, there's that out there. But I mean, at the same time, I got like one of those like KN95 masks and whatnot, and I make everyone keep their masks on. That comes into the classroom, and it's pretty well.
Of course,
spaced, yeah. So, it's fine. But otherwise, I mean, it's. Well, I'm trying to think. What was the last date that we recorded on? Was it the 28th? Like right after Christmas, but before New Year's?
Yep. You're right.
Okay. Yeah, so I had a nice New Year's with Sarah. It was just the two of us, so that was nice. And then, you and your roommates and such, and some of our other friends, we did like Snapchat shots. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
The Buckeyes won. The Bills won with their backups. The Bills are in the playoffs, and the Buckeyes are in the championship.
The Bills aren't only in the playoffs. They're like AFC favorites. I think.
Easy. Let's pump the brakes. They're underdogs. We got to sell them like that.
All right. No wide lefts.
But at this, it was wide right. But
no wide rights.
But if they do combine the two, you got to straight down the middle. No, but I guess a little bit about myself. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and that's where I currently reside. And it's just cool. I mean, it's just wild. I know this is normally we talk video games, but I mean, this is like the coolest and saddest year in Bills history because it's been 25 years since they won the AFC East. My dad has been a season ticket holder since the Bills came to Buffalo, pretty much. And, we can't go.
Yeah, you can't be like. I feel like the whole town would be buzzing. We could have put
ourselves in the raffle, but we didn't.
Right.
Just because, like, look, I understand. Whatever your feelings and your own, personal choices are within this quarantine time. totally up to you. Be safe. Just don't make others impacted. But what I will say though is 6,700 fans, not a lot. However, tell me when the Bills win the playoff game that there's not going to be like hugging and high fiving and stuff. Like I don't buy it. I'm not saying
Right.
that they like I'm not saying that like they should shut it down, and 6,700 people truly is not a lot when you consider the capacity is like, closer to 80,000. But like I just don't see it. Like, I mean, come on, like there's no way the Bills won their first playoff game and since like, 96 I want to say it would be. I just don't buy that.
It's like someone had a monkey's paw and was like, I wish the Bills were good this year. Like you got your wish, but you can't even be there to see it.
Wild.
Yeah. But still exciting. You'll get to watch them in the playoffs.
No, totally. I mean,
yeah.
I'm look. I'll take Bills 13-3 in the playoffs during COVID over them not being in the playoffs and just being a regular other year. I guess this is a different team than we used to have, but at the same point, having season tickets and then having this team and then not being able to see this team in person, that's been like in like the purely selfish world of like mindset of me and COVID and why it sucks. That's like probably in my top 5 reasons of why it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. I'd love to go to a Steelers game again sometime soon.
Might get Steelers Bills.
Might get Steelers Bills, and that's definitely going to be a poor outcome for the Steelers. So, but I'm just happy to be in the playoffs. We'll see.
Yeah, I gotta love just dancing,
Right? Exactly. Just because we're at the dance, we may not be the prettiest girl or guy at the dance, but we're there. Damn it! So
yeah, exactly.
That means we have just as big a chance as any to be crowned prom king or queen. Anyway, except if you're the Browns. So.
Because then you're infected, and we don't want to be around you. No
we don't want to be around you.
Maybe give you 2 weeks, quarantine
stay over
yourself,
on the wall,
and then we'll hang out with you, Cleveland.
Right. But yeah, we did a small New Year's thing as well. Not any sort of super spreader event, but basically like my girlfriend's place, my place, and my roommate's girlfriend as well.
At that point, you guys are already all in it together. So
we've already all been hanging out. They're like my T-Mobile Fave 5 for the quarantine, I guess. So,
wow, that's a callback,
right? We actually ended up one of the nights recently watching a bunch of throwback 90s commercials, like the ones with Crash Bandicoot at like Nintendo headquarters, like yelling at them about PlayStation, which is pretty funny. It's kind of weird the stuff you retain, especially the like what's the word I'm looking for, the slogans you remember. It's actually kind of gross that I remembered so many of them, but I did.
Like the marketing and how good they are at it is kind of crazy. Now they've gotten lazy and they're just like, accept all cookies. But like back then, like they were just like the phone numbers I remember are
everyone's
like
TikTok.
My childhood best friend, my mom, and every injury lawyer in Buffalo.
Thankfully, you haven't had to use any of them yet, I think. So, anyway, this is a podcast with video games. So I guess we can talk about some games here on the first Bread Radio of 2021. What'd you play this week, Greg? Anything of note?
I haven't really gotten to play a ton. I would say like, I've got my go-tos, Hearthstone, specifically Battlegrounds, Call of Duty Warzone, where I dropped my biggest kill win ever. I got a 16 kill win, which felt good.
Nice.
I was just absolutely out there, And then I played a little bit more Valhalla, but not enough to really like comment more on the game. I'm really deprived of motivation, and this is not a fault of yours, but like I kind of see the light. I've gotten to a point in the game where I see the light at the tunnel, and it's just like, is that what I'm gonna do with my 5 hours on a Friday evening? And the answer has typically been no. But the one thing that Sarah and I have, we're starting to eat healthier again after the new year.
Yeah,
it's so tough to like try to do that during holiday season, but once that's over, I've put on the Quarantine 15 or whatever you want to call it, or the COVID-19 is probably a little bit more appropriate for how much weight I put on.
Right. Me too.
But Um, so Sarah and I have like started dieting, and we like kind of labeled certain days with just like goofy titles on like what we do on that day, just to like break
Like
up the
Stir
like.
Friday.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
That's I mean
Friday's
Archer.
actually been like Friend Friday. Like she sees some of her friends that are in her
Oh,
bubble,
okay.
and then I play video games online. But we played it on New Year's, and we're gonna kind of continue it as like we're playing Switch games together on Monday. So it's Mario Party Monday is like the coin term, but
How is it on the Switch? You have the like newer one. How is that?
It's good. I mean, so it has the same holes as every Mario Party game.
Mm-hmm.
That the ending doesn't feel justified ever. And it's not necessarily who wins or loses. It's that it's a board game that just ends spontaneous. Like you know when it's gonna end, but it doesn't feel like that. There's a true ending of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's something we get to play together. But at the same, because we play like co-op, like 2v2 or whatever against the computers.
Computers, yeah.
Which and it's a lot of fun, but like it has like the same faults as any other Mario Party game, which keep you going back to it. But at the same time, if you play more than once a week, you probably hate it.
So here's my question for you, because our buddy Nick has a GameCube, and he had Mario Party. We were joking about, because him and Alex were arguing about which one they played in college, so I can't remember now because we joked about so much if we were playing 5 or 6. But it was fun. I had to make myself stop because I'm too competitive for my own good. But I'd heard some criticisms of the newer Mario Party, like that there weren't enough boards and enough games to really like keep you coming back to it. Do you feel there's any truth in that criticism, or is it it is what it is, or how do you
100%.
feel? Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same point,
like for $60, would you buy it again? Or no, let's take me for instance, because there was a deal on Joy-Cons on Amazon, and I was like, well, I do have some that are suffering from drift, and then I guess I could play Mario Party. So you're saying it's not worth the price of entry, probably?
Yeah, I mean it's fine. It's Mario Party, and if you don't want to have a billion systems lying around your house, then the Switch one's great, because the Nintendo Switch is not very cumbersome on a household. So that's why I got it, and I'm not sad that I got it. Would I like rush to buy it again? No. But at the same point, for Sarah and I to have like a co-op experience, I think that it's like one of the more lighthearted, and I mean, I mentioned before, like it's not like video games are something she's played super consistently throughout her life, so it's a very easy one to pick up and start getting used to playing a video game.
Right.
So I mean, it's meant for all ages, so it really kind of like lets you kind of like think and move and get used to the hand-eye of video games. So like that's not why we got it. It's not like a training exercise, but it's fun. You don't have to think too much. You can think about it, and like there is some strategy to it, but it's just a good way just to hang out and have some laughs.
Are all the games motion control based, or like do you have to play everything with a single Joy-Con? What?
60/40. Everything's single Joy-Con. You can't play it in handheld mode, and there's probably 60% have some level of motion control.
Man, I don't know what it like. I just don't care about motion controls.
Me neither.
I just wish, like when we were playing that other Mario Party, I was like, yeah, I just like give me a controller and some mini games, man. Like I just want to do that. So
this is not a direct call out of Nintendo, but I will tell you that the main reason that like I hate motion control is I think it leads to lazy design, because it's like, oh, look how interactive, but it's like, no, this is like you're just like moving the Joy-Con in a circle. Okay.
Right.
I think that just in general, motion control is just like extremely lazy.
I feel like it's never quite to be fair, in VR, like if you've ever had like a Vive that has like the towers with the motion control, that being 1-to-1 with the headset on, pretty immersive.
Yeah,
that's
say, complete.
Right?
That's like a complete like opposite side of the coin there.
Right. I'm just mentioning that because before someone comes in is like, well, actually, but I always feel like when I'm playing the like Switch games with motion controls, or even back on the PS3 with the 6-axis had like some limited motion controls. Even on the PS4, the like I know some people swear by on the Switch like using the gyro controls to like aim. It always just doesn't feel quite precise enough to me that I always get frustrated. You know what I mean? Like whenever there's like a
Yeah,
mini game
I mean, I
involving
couldn't
like
be a
motion control,
surgeon, right?
right?
So like when I'm pointing at the screen and my hand is like, you can see like there's like a certain level of shakiness to it. Then I shake more, and then like it's like a weird thing. But like that's kind of like Nintendo's thing, right? I mean, again, I don't think that motion controls should ever be the game. If it enhances it in some way, sure. But like a lot of the mini games are just motion controls, and I think that's just kind of lazy.
Right.
At least that's how it feels playing them, because like they're all just kind of reprints of like, oh, instead of doing this motion, do this one, and this is what
Right.
the screen does. Or like like I think a good execution of a lot of motion control was like, although limited in the size and scale of the game, but like 1-2 Switch, that was a perfect
Yeah.
time to have tons of motion control and nothing else.
Feels like a
But
tech
Mario
demo.
Party just feels like a rehash of like they took what they did in 1-2 Switch and just like ported it to Mario Party or whatever one came out first,
Yeah.
and it didn't really feel like the mini games. Like I still think back to Mario Party 1 and 2, which were my two favorites, just because like nostalgia for one, but there's just like games in there that were just like, I don't know, they were just like plain fun, like Platform Peril, jumping from platform to platform.
Peril, yeah.
Skateboard Scamper, like those games were some of my favorites, and they're just non-existent because of motion controls where blow up the balloon by moving the crank in circles, and it's like, all right, like
yeah, for me, like
platforming, jumping, timing, like kind of like almost like intense games that used to exist. Like I don't feel like, can you imagine like like when you were younger in like Mario Party, like it still can spark intensity and competitiveness, but especially when we were younger, and like that's like kind of like the measuring stick of like, oh, I'm better than you and whatnot. Like a motion control game, like, oh man, you just spun that thing faster. Like that would just be silly. Like that wouldn't be fun. I mean, as an adult, where I'm just playing it for pure like, just fun, and like, it's just a good way to waste time. It's fine, but yeah, it doesn't really do much for me.
Right. Yeah,
I still like playing it, like, and I'm gonna enjoy us playing it. But at the same point, I do think the mini games leave a lot on the table that previous versions had already done better.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think the golden era for me is like Mario Party 2 to like 4 on the N64 were sweet. The GameCube ones are all right too, honestly, because they're not too gimmicky yet. Like, just give me like mini games, Anyway, moving on from that, any other games you want to mention from the past 10-ish days? We're kind of cadencing out that we're doing this every 10 days. I'd love to do one once a week every once in a while, but I don't know. It's just kind of working out with the way the holidays have been.
Yeah, I mean, we're now like in like the slow cycle of life, right? Until like the sun comes out again, which in Buffalo is late May.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So, yeah, I mean, it's much easier to kind of fit things in and schedule now.
Yeah.
Nothing of note though.
Okay, so I played a bunch more Persona 5 Royal. I'm about 45 hours in. I'm just a Japanese high school student doing that shit and gathering more personas. It's I don't know, it's a totally different game. There are definitely some like non-Western themes or non-American themes in the game. Like there's some weird relationships that you can pursue. But the music's really good. The art style in that game is just fantastic, in my opinion. I think Royal came out in 2020. I just didn't consider it for any of my lists because it added like a couple characters and it like slightly changed the story, but it wasn't enough of a new game to really consider it for Game of the Year. But it is something I do intend on beating, and something I can like, considering that everything is like, most of the things are text-based or turn-based. We talked about it either last week or the week before, but it's something I can like, I don't have to lean all the way forward and engage with. I can just like chill and play this game and still be like tactical, which I've enjoyed. I've also unfortunately been playing FIFA 20, not FIFA 21, like last year's edition. Just because I wanted to see what it looked like on my PS5, and also when Arsenal starts playing better, I get like more addicted to soccer content. And I have EA Play. It's like $30 a year for like this library of games. I got it so that I could play. Like, it was cheaper to get that than it was to buy Jedi Fallen Order on the PlayStation Store. So I was like, screw it. But damn, that game looks pretty damn good on a full screen, and it doesn't run like all the best since it's still made for PS4. And I don't really plan on buying a new FIFA in the next couple of years, just because I don't support all the like FIFA point things they're doing and how they're just pouring all their money into their Ultimate Team content. It's kind of disheartening.
That's the thing that like lost me on sports games is the Ultimate Team. I used to just love playing like the franchise modes. And,
yes,
like,
exactly.
And just like
yeah,
we're
boomers now, man.
And that just like the simulation aspect of those games is just completely lost in microtransactions and online play, which doesn't really interest me too much. So
yeah, like
I've kind of been on the outs of those games. I buy Madden when the Bills are good, so I got this year's, and it's just okay. It's fun. It's a good way to like kill some time and live out your Buffalo Bills Super Bowl dreams. But all the sports games are the same. There's no competition in the market. There's no reason for them to be better. I know PES and FIFA are both out there, but
PES doesn't have like all the licenses. It's pretty weird.
So it's just like, all right, here we are.
Yeah, it's I guess it is what it is, but it's those big money deals for exclusivity. So, but yeah, I'm right there with you. Like they added a few things to the manager mode, like for negotiations, but like I would have been fine without that if they had just like made other improvements to the gameplay and some of the management like tools. Like they just went out of their way to make some of the negotiations more complicated rather than just like changing some of the systems. So like whatever. So I'll play that for a bit, get bored, and then uninstall. But I have been playing that this week. As I previously mentioned, played Mario Party 5 or 6. I can't remember which one. I think it was 6 we played on the GameCube, and that was fun for about 20 seconds until all my stars got stolen. So I stopped playing that. But I do like Mario Party. I just wish the new one was worth buying. And I've been watching my roommate Alex play a bunch of Spyro. He's been going through the Reignited trilogy, and that's just been fun. Like, because I had it and I just haven't had a chance to get to it, and he's like, I'll play it. So it's actually kind of been great. I'll play Persona on the other TV. He has Spyro on. And watching him play that, he said he's going to jump into something a little more serious after this, like a Red Dead or Horizon or something. But it makes me want to jump into something like Spyro, so I'm looking for suggestions. I heard the new Crash, like Crash 4, is actually pretty good. So I might pick that up. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about just like a cartoony platformer. Now, I have that on Steam. I don't know. I want something on my console. Is it out on consoles anywhere?
I think so, but then you're double dipping and paying twice.
Yeah, but I don't care that much. I might do that. I want something like that. I remember I started playing on Steam, but that's totally the game I want to play on my couch. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, so. I mean that's just like a fun game, and it's a new experience because Crash Bandicoot, you've played one, and again I don't play a ton of them, but I bought like the last installment of it. I forget what the name of it is. I have it on Steam somewhere.
So you do have Crash 4?
Yeah, I have the Insane Trilogy.
Oh, okay.
And I know that's
Insane
like
Trilogy,
a remake,
yeah.
But like playing it again, I was just like I couldn't really play it for too long because I was just like, I've done this. You know, I've been here, and I know it's the same games just remade, so like I get it, but at the same point, I don't know how much a new one would have to offer that would like make you feel any different.
I don't know. I've heard this one's like different than Insane Trilogy. I don't know. I'll take a look at it and.
Yeah, I'm speaking with absolute no confidence in what I'm saying, other than just like that, like replaying those.
Welcome to my world.
Like, turn me off to those gameplay loops.
Yeah, and then actually something I've listed here but didn't mention, because I haven't really started playing it yet, but I bought the Tony Hawk remake, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. So I booted up for like maybe 15 minutes.
Same,
but we had people over. Well. I'm looking forward to getting into that, man. Give me that nostalgia bomb. I'm ready. All right, let's get really quickly into the news. I've got maybe like 2 or 3 topics before we get to the games we're looking forward to in 2021, a little bit of a 2021 preview. So we'll kind of speed through some of these and then move on. So this will come up later, but I watched a PSVR demo today of Hitman 3. It looked really cool. Like, I just think like Hitman, you guys have heard me gush about it ad nauseum on this podcast, but Hitman is just one of those really good stealth assassination games that, like, it looks like it takes itself seriously, but when you start playing it, it's like, no, not really. Like, because you can be dressed up as a flamingo mascot at a racetrack and be, you know, choke holding people, which is hilarious. And seeing it done in VR just seems kind of crazy. My only reservations are I don't really care to play it on PSVR. I actually don't really care to play PSVR almost at all. I don't want Move controllers, so I'm pretty hopeful that this comes to like more VR capable systems soon, like PC, for example. I'd love to see that. Or they're gearing up for like a PSVR 2 that will move away from the Move controllers and works on the PS5 and, you know, is just generally more powerful.
That's the case.
It has to be, right? You would think. Like
yeah. I mean, the technology has advanced so much since they released the original that they're definitely going to sell more hardware.
Right.
It'll probably be 2 years out after like the PS5 Pro that hopefully can handle it better, because that's also what they do.
Right. Yeah, we'll see though. Like, I don't know. It's just cool. It's a cool demo. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Also, next story via Dexerto. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I realized I was always calling it like Dextero just because I'm dyslexic this whole time, and then I looked at it today. I was like, wait, Dexerto, whatever. Anyway, via that outlet, Respawn Entertainment, the Californian studio behind Battle Royale, Apex Legends, Titanfall franchise, and the aforementioned Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, are working on a secret new game that will reportedly let players, quote, keep adventuring forever. This is according to a new job listing posted on Respawn's website, that the studio is putting together an incubation team for a new IP or intellectual property. The ad calls for a generalist software engineer, and the listing has relatively few details on the project itself, basically just saying other than that it's a new property. So obviously Respawn has a ton of pedigree. I think it was actually born out of some former Infinity Ward devs, the team that brought you COD Modern Warfare, COD 4 Modern Warfare back in 07, 08. And obviously they've continued that lineage with Titanfall and Apex. And while Star Wars was a third-person action game, most of their games are rooted in some sort of shooter archetype. So I'm interested to see what that is, but the term adventuring forever brings me some pause, because I'm just, as I've said on the show, like, I'm so over games as a service. Like, there's not enough time to play. Like, they already have one, Apex, and then there's Valorant, and then there's CS, and there's Dota, and there's League, and there's Destiny, and there's WoW, and there's ESO, and like the Avengers now. There's just too many of these games. So I'm just afraid for it being something that's like this persistent world. But I am excited to see what Respawn has in store for us. Any thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I kind of just echo the same. I think like what they've done is in the past has been like some pretty incredible games. I don't know how I feel about something that's like adventuring forever. It just sounds like maybe like just I don't know, like that to me is like just a scary sort of like verbiage to hear, because it just means like
great
that
Anthem,
just like reeks of microtransactions.
Yeah,
because you're gonna
loot
be adventuring
boxes
forever if you buy like this pack, you know, that helps you adventure forever.
And now you can adventure with the red version of the gun you own.
Yeah, like spending forever sounds a little bit more in line with that sort of verbiage, I suppose.
I don't know, man. Like, I was down with Destiny for a while because it felt like a game I could pick up and play for a bit, and then when a new content drop came, and like some of our buddies do that with WoW too, like, fine, right? I'm just like, there's this whole like churn FOMO that they try and addict you to, that if you don't log in for one day, like, you're missing out on something. And I just have caught myself in that loop a few times. I'm just not ready to go back, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even with Hearthstone and stuff, I was like, I got to get the card back. I got to do, you know, all these, I got to get my coins and all that shit. So
yeah,
we're on the same page there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like Hearthstone's like kind of my like where I turn like a blind eye to it somewhat, but it's also like an extremely unique game for me because although like you look for like Persona and Persona Royale and things like that, like Hearthstone's like my constant one of those games, so like I
Yeah.
don't really mind the spend on it because it's something that I'm perpetually entertained by, so it just doesn't really like phase me. But for like the idea of getting involved into a new version of that or one that has like equal bearings on time, and it's not time that can be spent leaning back on the couch or something like that.
Right.
I just don't have the space for it. It
And
could be
every game
good,
has a battle
but
pass now and everything. It's
yeah,
like I remember someone doing the math on Valorant. It was like you need to play like at least, I'm making a number up, but you have to play like 100 games in this period to get to the last level. It's just like, man, I already paid for the battle pass. Now you're making me stay in the environment even more, which I get to a certain extent, but like then you're also offering me to purchase levels of this battle pass, and I know like Call of Duty does that too, just so I can unlock the skins that I already paid the like right to get to. Like so you're time blocking something I like paid for, which is crazy.
to Call of
So,
Duty's credit, though, I've never really had an issue completing a battle pass, which at least is satisfying in that regard. Of like, yes, it's annoying that there's a battle pass with time unlocked rewards, but like it's very like I don't even I don't even play nearly as much as most people do, and I still have no issue completing it. So there's that I will give them credit for. Um, but at the same time, like that whole system just like it's
yeah.
never gonna go away. But man, if something could be sent out to die, oof.
I know. It went from like season pass. It went from like DLC to season pass to like constant content stream to loot boxes to battle passes. It's been this weird transference of
Well,
capitalist power.
you can't sell DLC on an online game. So here you are.
R-
Like they used to do it in terms of
Right.
map packs, but then they would divide their player base. So instead of doing map packs, they do, things that don't actually change the game
Yeah.
fundamentally. So like, there's at least that. But I mean, that's the change, right?
Right. Right. Last story we've got here via IGN, which I can say that outlet's name correctly. Dishonored co-creator Harvey Smith is working on an unannounced new game at Arcane Austin alongside devs from Dishonored and Prey, both games that I like. And they were explicitly saying it's not Deathloop, which we'll talk about soon. I don't know. That's awesome. I Dishonored is one of my favorite games from like the last quote unquote generation. Prey I have and have been meaning to get into for some time. Deathloop is one of my more anticipated games like coming up this current generation. I just wonder because Arcane was actually like they were part of that big acquisition that Microsoft, like they're underneath ZeniMax, and therefore were acquired by Microsoft. So I just like wonder something to like really like this is a pretty good segue into our games we're looking forward to 2021 and things to look out in the future for too. Like that $7.5 billion purchase of ZeniMax is huge, and like we're gonna be seeing the it's gonna be really interesting to see what Microsoft does here because they're building up a huge platform in of itself aside from Xbox and Game Pass. And now they've got this whole stable of developers that they could potentially, be like, you can play this game on Game Pass or Xbox now. And that, like, truthfully, that's something that would turn my head. Like, I don't like the only console gaming environment really that I'm not in is Xbox right now. Well, maybe not
But
Stadia.
you don't need to be though. You have a computer, so I mean, I'm not trying to like say that that's like the only way to play games. But if you really want to like if you have the money to do so, having a gaming PC that's at least like decently
Yeah.
up to date and a PlayStation is really all you need these days.
I know, and that's where I've totally gotten by on. But I guess my only rationale, and I know it's not good rationale, it's just like, and maybe I'll just get to this point where I hook up a computer to a TV. Like maybe that becomes a norm one of these days. But some of these games, like Bethesda games, while I know more of the mods are on PC and I've played some on PC, Dishonored, for example, Prey, like Star Wars, I would rather play those games on a TV, on a console, just for ease of use.
For sure.
But
you
yeah,
can
I totally
stream it
get
to
it.
your TV without even like at least from Steam, you can stream games from Steam to your TV. You know, same with like if it's a Games Pass game or, you know, something like that. You'll just be able
Yeah.
to like use your computer as like a quote unquote server for the game and just boot it up on a TV.
Yeah, if I can get that
That's the
working right,
future.
like maybe that's what I'll do. Like,
Yeah, I mean
that's still
truthfully, that's
some
the
days
future.
away. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I had a God, what was that thing called? The like little Steam box thing. It wasn't a Steam
Steam
box.
Link.
Steam Link. And I used it with some varying degrees of success. And it's just like all I could think about was like, man, if I could get this working like better, that would be sick.
Now it's just an app on like Apple TV or depending on what
Have you tried it?
plugin you have. Yeah, it works fine.
What have you played?
You don't even need that though. So I was at Sarah's and I have like my crappy like laptop that's just not great for much and was a waste of money. And if I leave my
Tell me how you really feel.
If I leave my Steam or my computer turned on here at home and I'm at her place, I can stream games online to my laptop. And there's some latency there. I wouldn't play like something competitive or too chaotic, but for the most part, like the latency wasn't too much of an issue. As long as both internet connections are good. I played Fallen Order for a little bit.
Okay. Well, shit. I'll give that a try.
Yeah, just give it a shot because like especially if you have like a laptop that has Steam on it, you could just try it at home and just test it out on that. Yeah, you don't really like that. I mean that technology is already out there. I mean, not that like Stadia was a great launch or anything, but like there's a lot of different like like game streaming platforms like Xbox Games Pass where you can play on your cell phone. That have already kind of captured that market and have already said this is viable. So
well, that's what I'm saying with Game Pass at least.
Viable too.
Like I'm really interested to see like what happens. So like they already purchased Minecraft, right? And Minecraft was already on the PlayStation. They didn't take it away. Like I'm just wondering these these big games that they have, like let's say the next Fallout or let's say the next Elder Scrolls.
Well,
is that an Xbox?
How about let me toss out just so we can kind of transition here. Let me toss out the one that I think could be the biggest divider between Xbox maybe taking a step up here, and that's going to be Starfield.
Yeah, so like both, Starfield and Elder Scrolls. Like
Starfield's actually potentially a 2021 release. It probably won't be, but they've said they've been working on this game for over a decade, and it's basically like Oblivion with guns. And like you're gonna be like from what it seems like you're gonna be traveling from between planets. It's like it looks like it's gonna be like Mass Effect and other games, just kind of like all ripped into this beautiful creation if it all comes true. And granted, we've seen a lot of that not come true in games that are similar, whether it be No Man's Sky initial release or Cyberpunk. But I mean, they've been working on it for over a decade, and they're already saying that parts of the game have been playable, and that's back at 2018.
Right.
So, I mean, this game could, if it's an Xbox exclusive or Windows exclusive, or whatever you want to, Microsoft exclusive. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, what do they do?
The space age successor to Skyrim. What? Okay.
Right. It's like, are these games too big to platform lock, or is this their killer app now?
Well, I mean, if you spend $7.5 billion, there's no game that's too big to platform lock, right?
Well, I guess the other side of that coin would be like, but think about how much money you make by just pure player base, that PS5 has, PlayStation has.
But like the thing about that is like, if putting this only on Xbox makes people who have PlayStations buy Windows machines
or buy Games Pass,
buy Games Pass. Like the scaling, like that 7.5 billion. Sure, they have to pay like future salaries and operation costs, but it doesn't really like.
I mean, it's Microsoft; they're so cash rich, right? Like,
right? But I mean, let me think of like a good way to like look this up.
What are you looking up?
1 second. So Ghost of Tsushima, for instance, sold 5 million copies
Mm-hmm.
as of November. So it's
Mm-hmm.
probably even higher than that. Probably closer, maybe like let's say 6 million. Um, so if they made what 6 million copies, $60 a copy, they're in like the 30 plus millions there or whatever that ends up being. I mean, like it doesn't really take a ton like for that billion sort of number. I mean, I know that's a lot, and it definitely is, but Ghost of Tsushima is not going to touch what like a Starfield would, especially because it's a PC also release.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's going to be probably there. I mean, if it follows any sort of microtransaction or other DLC, I mean that game and its like level of support. I mean, look at Skyrim. I mean, how many releases of that have they done, and how much money have they made off of that? I mean, the 7.5 billion is a huge number, and it sounds absolutely wild. But and the thing about it that's even crazier is, do you know how much Star Wars sold for?
Actually, I don't remember off the top of my head.
So for instance, Lucasfilm sold, or sorry, this is Lucasfilm, so this isn't just Star Wars. This also includes, Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
everything. 4 billion.
Yeah, but
Star Wars was cheaper by half of what Bethesda sold for. So, whether they feel like if PS5 users are that valuable to them, then I just don't see that being a hindrance for them leaving. I just think that like they spent that much money and they didn't even buy Star Wars.
right.
Like that. And I'm not saying that they would have wanted to make movies or something, but like that just idea alone is kind of crazy to like conceive that a video game studio is worth more than Star Wars on the
Right.
market.
Well, it's crazy because video games are bigger than movies now.
No, I know,
Honestly,
but I'm just like
it's a
in
bigger
terms of
industry.
like just popular culture and like daily life, like people think about Star Wars more than they think about like a video game studio, right?
No, I would agree with that. Like the average human, maybe.
I'm not saying that they don't think about video games more than they think about Star Wars, but it is crazy how much they sold for, and I just and I mean they can do whatever they want. I think that they would have trouble with only doing an Xbox release, because if the player base of console players is 35% Xbox and 65% PS5, you're cutting off a lot of sales there.
Yeah.
And that's hard to rationalize, but 7.5 billion is a long-term play.
Right.
And it's
No,
it's something where
I'm literally in agreement with you this whole time. I think they're going to drive Game Pass. Like that's their future.
Yeah.
They're going towards. They're with you in the sense where it's like, yeah, we're looking towards the guy who maybe has a console, but he definitely has a PC and he's streaming games to his TV, and we've got this cloud gaming service that he can access this library of games that he pays us a monthly fee for.
And
right.
with that being said, if you have a PS5, great, that's great and all. The PS5 loses Sony money, but if you buy Games Pass, I don't imagine that they lose money on Games Pass, just by how much they're trying to push that. And so if you have a PS5, no PC, but you stream games from Games Pass, Microsoft just makes $150 off of you a year.
Yeah.
And maybe they up the price.
I just wonder how much I wonder like what the deals look like for the developers and the publishers of these games. Like it's like the deal like feels too good to be true, doesn't it? Like
it does,
for its cost.
It does in a way, but I also
like
I
when
also
Netflix raising their prices,
Yeah, like I mean, and that'll probably happen. I mean, just natural cost of, or like natural like economic flow, right? Like of inflation and just different things driving prices up. But I don't think that Microsoft is like whatever what like Movie Pass was, where like they just went bankrupt instantly off of it. I think that they're probably already making at least even or a margin on this. I don't know what like how that all works, like in terms of like the server costs and everything, but it's Microsoft. It's not like it's an upstart that has to like pay the upfront costs. They already have the equipment to do it, and they launched it, and now it's just perpetual income. And so the more subscribers they have, yeah, it could up operation costs, but it also like just more money to like recycle into the system and or just profit off of.
Yeah, and there'll always be some people that just have or subscribe to it because it's a good value, but maybe don't
And
like interact with a bunch of stuff. So like,
yeah,
just there'll
and
be a ton
also
of
like
passive subscribers.
yeah, and like consoles are sold at a loss. So if they're not selling you a console and you're getting Games Pass, which even if it made them like $2 off the 15 after like all the costs involved in it, I mean that's still a win for them, I guess.
Right. So anyway, no, we're in agreement. I was just more just like posing the question like, what's Xbox's gambit at the end of the day, and I think like it makes the next step makes sense. I'm just really
Yeah,
interested. Like it's just gonna be crazy, like because there's a ton like there's so many developers they have that make
it's
like
also a
previously
bargaining
third
chip.
party titles.
I mean, it's also something that they could use a bargaining chip. Hey, PlayStation, you really want to keep that in exclusive? Okay, here
Yeah,
we go. You know, like,
true,
is
true.
that really
Yeah.
what you want to do? Okay, well, let me put this out on an exclusive, and let's
All
see.
right, you
You
guys
know,
don't get
and we're
Fallout.
willing to play ball when
Peace.
you are. It's the same
Right.
thing with crossplay, right? PlayStation was trying to play it tough on that, and Microsoft was all ears for it. And I mean, you know, if
Yeah.
they collect enough IPs that, you know, like if it wasn't for how strong PS4 was, like if that generation was just null and void, and we left Xbox 360 and PS3 where we did, and this is what news we were kind of seeing, I don't know that I would be rushing to buy a PlayStation. With what Microsoft is kind of posing here, I mean, and I mean, in terms of like goodwill and things like that, with Games Pass that's already up and running, and you know, being the one that wants to like integrate different things into their systems. I mean, all they had to do was just say like, you know what, hey, let's sell the Xbox One, but let's not make it also where you plug your cable television into, and like
Right.
different weird decisions they made. But who knows? We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, the we could do a whole podcast about those choices, and it's been done from the Xbox One era. But anyway, moving on. Uh, let's continue to look forward, but this time more about games rather than the players in it. Um, I kind of have a list, and Greg has a list as well. I've got you earmarked on a few of these because you express some interest, but I'm basically just going to go through. If I have something to say about it, I'll say something about it. And the ones that you're earmarked, of course, you'll take. Some of these we probably won't have a ton to say about just because there isn't a ton of like information out on it yet. And some of them don't even have like solid dates. I would actually say most of these don't have solid dates. I suspect a lot of people are waiting, especially after watching the Cyberpunk fiasco, are probably waiting until things are ready to show anything and talk about their game and set a release date, especially having done a lot of this work towards the tail end of their development cycle in quarantine. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of these games get pushed into the later half of the year, and then depending on who the competitors are in the holiday season of 2021, those games pushed in the spring of 2022. I can't believe I'm already saying 2022 felt like even just a year ago felt like 10 years away, and here I am saying 2022. That's fucking crazy. But yeah, so these are just some games that we kind of put out in a list that it's actually, when I went through, I was like, man, this is kind of a beefy list of games, and there are a lot of these that I actually really 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 want to play. Like I think a lot of people were saying 2020 was a good year for games. When I was going through my top 10, like there weren't a ton of games I was like super passionate about on there. And already in 2021 it looks like a ton of these games are games I'm going to want to try at the very least. Which kind of makes sense considering we just dealt with a launch cycle of a new console. So it's time for the PS5 and the Xbox, and yes, of course, the Game Pass to continue to grow. So first game I have listed here that we kind of already touched on is Hitman 3. That's made by IO Interactive, who actually purchased the IP from Square Enix a few years back and self-published Hitman 2. And good on them, man. Like this game's like Hitman and Hitman 2 are awesome. In Hitman 2, you could import any of the content you owned from Hitman 1 or Hitman from 2016. and play it in Hitman 2's engine. They're doing the same thing here with Hitman 3. So you'll be able to play 1 and 2 in 3, which is pretty awesome. Like just having it as this like complete project. And if you don't know anything about it, and I suspect you already do, but I'll just read off. Like its predecessors, Hitman 3 is a stealth game played from the third-person perspective, and players once again assume control of Assassin, Agent 47. In the game, 47 will travel to various locations and carry out contracted assassinations of criminal targets across the globe. Base game features 6 new locations, including Dubai, Dartmoor, Berlin, and Chongqing. Chongqing? Am I saying that right? If I'm not, apologies. But as they call it, the world of assassination it's just a fun, like it's a single player game. Actually, there was a multiplayer aspect. I don't know if that's coming to 3 as well, but it's one of those where it's like one of those experiences where like 3 or 4 of you can be sitting on the couch. One person's controlling. He's like, oh yeah, what if you tried this? Or, oh yeah, knock that guy out and take his, what's it called? I bet you can access this area if you're disguised as this type of character. And it's just, it feels almost like a community game, but it's not a community game. And it's just so smartly made, like these sandboxes these murder sandboxes, we'll call them. And that comes out on January 20th. So obviously I'm very much looking forward to it. I was hoping to have my Cyberpunk refund from Sony by then, and then I'll reinvest into Hitman 3, but we'll see. And then I'll probably repurchase Cyberpunk down the road once they've done some updates to the game and perhaps come out with the next generation version. But yeah, Hitman 3. Greg, any thoughts on the Hitman series? Have you tried it?
Played a couple, and I think I played a couple like just like kind of watching you and like passing the controller back in the day. This game looks really awesome, and I have like an urge to like check it out. But it's not something that I like playing like in like a singular, like just by myself. I like playing
Yeah.
it with like a friend like on the couch next to me, or
Yeah, that's
maybe
exactly
checking out
it.
some of the co-op. But it just, for me, like there's just some like the goofy things that you can do in the game to me are like just the stupid things are always way more interesting and fun than actually playing the game itself in this like the way maybe it's intended to, or maybe that's the intention. Is I think that it is kind of the intention. It's
Right.
just, you can do it your own way and kind of just like goof around, and that's what excites me about this game. Is it just seems like there's more ways to do silly things.
Yeah, I could
Like
almost
just
see
like killing
like
people, dressing up in 10 different costumes, and like just being weird. Like that's what I
right.
like about these games. So more of that.
Right, I could
That's
almost
awesome.
see you sitting on the couch with Sarah and having her like dictate what you do. Like it just seems like that sort of game, you know. Next on the list I have here Far Cry 6. Honestly, I forgot that they were making it. Well, I don't know why, but I just totally forgot they were making another Far Cry. Far Cry 6, Ubisoft Toronto, and that's, I think it just got pushed out of the spring or out from the spring into mid-year. But that's TBD in 2021. This is the Far Cry that, I don't know if you recall, Greg, but a trailer came out for ages ago, and the main bad guy is like everyone's favorite bad guy right now, Giancarlo Esposito of Mandalorian and Breaking Bad fame, and I'm sure a few other shows as well. Better Call Saul. But I mean, Far Cry is gonna Far Cry, right? Like 5, I don't know, man. Far Cry games kind of just don't do it for me. I'm not really sure why, but they don't appeal to me like almost at all. And I'm not sure what it is. Like maybe it's like if I'm playing like a first person shooter, like I want to be doing it like in an online game. I don't know. That's kind of weird, but they don't. I think they do cool things, and I nod tip of the cap to them because I think they're fun to watch. The mayhem that ensues, but it's just not for me. So maybe Far Cry 6 is the Far Cry for bread. We'll see. Any Far Cry thoughts?
I feel quite similar.
Can you put your finger on it? Like, what is it? I don't know.
It's possibly just due to the fact that it's I don't want to like say that it's like a reskin or something, but like the games have like a certain path to them that just never intrigues me because there's no story that I'm curious about or setting that really makes me that curious. I know what I'm like. I feel like I know what happens in Far Cry before I launch it, and
Hmm.
that's why I never launch it or buy it. Or like
And like,
I just have like I know that it's gonna hit my expectations, and I just I don't really like care enough
right.
about any of the world settings or themes.
I'm starting to realize maybe I have a problem with how I try and play games because maybe I tried to Metal Gear Solid it too much when I really just need to go it. Like I remember in 3 wanting to like sneak up on a few guys and it just goes into mayhem and being like frustrated a few times with because the shooting never felt quite the way I wanted it to be, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think that is just kind of like the fact of it is that you have to remember like stealth and doing those type of like gameplays where you're trying to be a little bit realistic in how your character could take out a village or whatever as like a
Mm-hmm.
fortress or like that's too difficult, man. And all games are tuned for the average player, which is not you. Like the average skill level player, which is not you. Um so yeah, I mean the guns blazing approach works unless you're on like the hardest difficulty in most
Right.
games because that is what that game mode is meant to feel like is that you're an action hero and nothing can kill you because if you kept dying multiple times on an average difficulty or a slightly above average difficulty, you might put it down.
Right. Um, I don't know though. I saw in 5 like you could play co-op in that, and if there's like a good co-op in 6, like that'd be something that could be fun for you and I to jump into. I
Yeah,
just
for
always
sure.
hesitate because like I've tried to get people in the Borderlands with me, and it's hard. Like they're not short games, so we're talking about a long co-op commitment while we're adults. So if they do
Yeah,
it right,
exactly.
like if
And then
enemies
if you
scale
play
appropriately,
singularly, then one person gets out of sync with where you're at or whatever, and it
right,
kind of
and then
falls
you're
apart.
asking the person who played longer. You're either asking one person to jump ahead in the story when they're not ready, or someone to replay a bunch of content they already played. It's just like, you know. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
up
But
next we've
I'd be interested to check it out and like prove ourselves wrong. That like Far Cry 6 could
yeah,
I
I'm
could
always
definitely see
open to
that.
proving myself wrong.
Yeah.
I do. I and many other people prove me wrong constantly. It's great.
See, I'm too stubborn to prove myself wrong, but I'm not stubborn like and like other people prove me wrong and like I just kind of like accept it,
And
but
then
I'm
then
too
you just
stubborn in my own ways.
block them on Facebook.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, actually, I don't really have social media anymore, so that's been a little bit tough. So blocking
that's
people
better
in
for
real
you,
life
man.
is just so difficult because, like, you see
There's a
it,
Black Mirror for that, I think, with like John
Really?
Hamm, where like if you get like blocked, ever that person's face just looks like a blur to you, and you can't like interact with them or anything. It's
See, that's why I don't like Black Mirror. Anyways, that's a different story.
it's too real, too real. Next, God of War Ragnarok, Santa Monica Studios, slated for this, I would assume, holiday season, if I had to guess. Probably the killer app alongside Horizon, which we'll get to for the PS5. Like these games are gonna look awesome. They're probably gonna play awesome. The original God of War 4, the reboot, whatever you want to call it, Viking God of War, from 2018, probably. I don't think I sound hyperbolic when I say this, but like probably one of the best games I've ever played front to back. It's just really good, really good. Um, and I actually like, I don't know, it balances on the knife's edge with like very traditional Viking lore, and putting their own twist on it to the point where I'm excited to see what happens in the second one. Like there's just enough mystery there that in character development I'm like, all right, yeah, sold, send it, let's see what's next. I don't know, did you play God of War, Greg?
I didn't. I actually watched you. I think you were streaming it at the point
I
that you were
may
playing it.
I may have, yeah.
But
It
I
was
definitely
sick.
watched either you or someone else stream it, and it looked incredible. It isn't a game that I was naturally drawn to, but I understand why it is regarded in the way that it is.
Yeah,
That's why it's not on my list. Is it's just for some reason there's just something about the gameplay in it that just doesn't like strike me as something that I'm super into. But I completely understand why
the
this is what it is, and
the
like why
combat
people
was
enjoy
just
it.
like this perfect balance of like accessible and skillful for me to like get into. Like there were some really tough fights, but I felt like I had a chance if I like did the, I don't know. And it felt like the way I wish combat in like Dark Souls felt. Like the combat was visceral. Like I could feel the hits on these enemies, and the animations were crisp. And my character, I mean, he was a demigod, and the power ups were rewarding. Like I felt this natural progression of skill, and there were some like the moment to moment gameplay. Like there's usually someone talking or some conversation you're having that's moving the story along, so it didn't feel like there was too much filler. And then just the right amount of like openness. They had like a pretty good balance of like I'll call it semi-open world gameplay with linear gameplay, and the fact that you could basically start that game and play through the whole thing without any load screens. It's just a technical, well, without any visible loading screens, I'll say.
Yeah.
A technical marvel. So seeing what they do with the PS5, like really, really excited. I feel like it's gonna, this, like I said, alongside Horizon's really gonna like set the bar for what we can do on these next gen consoles. And hopefully that comes out this year still. So we'll see. Next on the list, Resident Evil Village stylized. It's Resident Evil 8, I believe. And that's Capcom, coming out 2021. I put this on here because I'll probably watch some people play it. And like I said, my roommates and I turn on Resident Evil 7. I think we're maybe 2 hours into the game over the course of like four times trying to play, like after a few drinks, because that's the only time we can build up the courage to play. It looks appropriately scary. The Resident Evil 7 looked really good, so I imagine that 8 will follow in its footsteps and also be a pretty good looking game. But I don't really have much to say outside of that, other than 2021 TBD. I don't know if you have any feelings on Resident Evil. It's a beloved franchise. It's just not necessarily for me.
I'm just like really scared of a lot of things, like
Yep.
like horror sort of stuff. So it just doesn't really like suit my needs. I mean, I
I
like
know.
it when someone else is holding the controller or I'm sitting with somebody else, but like again, it's different for different reasons, but similar to Hitman for me, where it's just not a single player experience. It's just not one that like I enjoy, that it evokes that emotion within me, but like I just
it was broad daylight, and I just had Twitch on in the background while I was working, and Haley's roommate was like, put something scary on. So I put a stream of Resident Evil 7, like kind of towards the beginning. And then next thing I knew, I was just pacing around the room, just straight up pacing around the room because I couldn't handle it. And that's in the broad daylight. So it's just like, oh man, I'm glad people can like sit and play through these games and they play it at night alone in their apartment. But I do not understand how at all. Next on the list, Horizon Forbidden West, Guerrilla Games 2021 TBD. This was like kind of the last thing they showed. I think it was in the summer they were showing like a games showcase, and Horizon was kind of like the last teaser they showed, and I think that's all they've showed since. I don't know, man. Horizon is one of those games that's just like, it does just enough. While we had the argument last week that I don't think Ghost of Tsushima does enough for me, that's different from like an Assassin's Creed game, I would argue that Horizon maybe does just enough for me, different from one of those like Ubi open worlds. Maybe just because the combat's mainly bow based and you're fighting like these giant robotic dinosaurs, so it's like a different kind of stealth in combat. But like the open world still pretty much has that similar feel. I'm looking forward to what they do change from like some of the criticisms from the first one were the melee combat, for example. So like, do we improve that? Do we see more like human enemies, and how like the dinosaurs were all really, and creatures were all really well designed and doing their weak spots, but a lot of the combat with the human enemies kind of fell flat for a bunch of people, and I think that's fair. And I think it's also fair to focus most of their development time on those beasts as well. But like, does that improve? We already know it's going to be a gorgeous game. Do some of the animations improve? Like we saw Death Stranding that used the same engine. have much better facial animations. I think there were some robotic features in the original Horizon. So I'm looking forward to this game because I feel like it's gonna. I feel like it's poised to take the next step in almost every category. And it's another game just like God of War. Like I think they did a really great job in their story and set up like it not only was a satisfying ending for the game itself, but it really did like set up the world for Aloy's story to continue. But not in like this like slap in the face like next time on Horizon Dawn, you know. So yeah, I think Horizon Forbidden West is the other killer app alongside God of War. I don't think those are necessarily like controversial statements either. Like anyone could see, but yeah, really looking forward to that. Greg, any input on Horizon?
Yeah, I mean, Horizon is kind of like, in a sense, and not exactly like a perfect analogy, but when we talked about Assassin's Creed, I said I always like the kind of carry through story, and Horizon has like what Assassin's Creed's become as a starting point, but it also has like a really interesting and kind of fun to explore carry through story. And so the thing that I think could hold this game back for me is if there's nothing deeper for me to really discover, or they draw it out too far for you to discover kind of some of the secrets within it. I don't know that I'm going to be playing Horizon Zero Dawn 4, or whatever it gets titled. You know what I mean? Like I have a fear that the game is going to end up being extremely like copy paste in a lot of ways in terms of like how you move through the game and what the game is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many more they'll get me for, because I really enjoyed the first one, and I truly did. If this is one of those times where like, Star Wars, the movies, like one of the issues with them is it's a set trilogy, so it has to have a beginning, a middle, and end, and there has to be different rises and falls and tensions within. And not that I want this, not that I like having like a known ending point, but I do wonder like if it turns into like something like where the lore and background and story of the game gets lost in the fact that they want to make 7 or
Right.
perpetually release this game. And so like that's kind of my reservation about it. Although it is beautiful, the world is cool. I enjoy being Aloy. I enjoy like the monsters and fighting and combat. I know that the melee wasn't great in some of the hitboxes, and like just the damage you would take in the animations were a little bit rough, and it's can be challenge you in that regard. But I always like that like underlying like crumb of like all of like the ones who came before and all of that. Like that was just so much fun to like discover, or the old ones
Right.
I think they're called. But I do have a fear that it kind of like gets lost in like we can't give away too much more than a nugget this game or something. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I wonder what they're.
Because once you figure out like, and you get like all that background back, like the past story, like the like what is your purpose in Aloy then? Just to like explore new lands, and if that's what it is, like that's fine. But I have a fear that like there's like potentially like something that could happen here where you're stuck like talking to these different villages that are trying to rebuild, and it's just endless. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I don't know. That's
No,
my
no,
fear
I
of the
totally get that.
franchise.
Like I hope it doesn't become this like. I mean, it's exactly what we've talked about with Assassin's Creed. Like, I hope there aren't just like 5 or 6 different types of activities to do, and that's what you do. Like, there's always going to be some semblance of that, but like, I know it's easy to call out one of the like better games to ever do this, but when you think about The Witcher 3 and the expectations that heaped upon Cyberpunk subsequently, but a lot of their side quest material, there was plenty of filler in there. Like, yeah, but like part of what made a lot of people okay with that side with the filler content was that any question mark could also spurn like this giant side quest that you're going to go off onto. So like
There was
I
like
just really hope
like just like weird things like that were just in that game.
Yeah, I didn't even love Gwent, but like I knew Gwent could take you on some weird quests. You could be playing a Gwent game 1 second, then all of a sudden, someone cheats and it becomes this whole side story over multiple towns, right? So like I don't know. I'm hopeful that Odyssey, like I feel like Odyssey was a great game. I mean, I feel like a lot of people felt like it was a great game, obviously, but like, you know, there were a couple things I'm willing to let go because it was a new IP. Like I said, the combat with humans, some of the like repetitive side quests and fetch quests, like, you know, they just weren't that engaging. I hope they take that next step. So like I'm cautiously optimistic while I understand like you're cautious. I don't want to label it pessimism myself.
I was just being like
but
the devil's advocate to it. I just have, I mean, we've seen this millions of times with sequels where, especially in this case, where like you can kind of see the writing on the wall that like they're not going to stop making these games anytime soon, probably, as long as this one's a success. Even if it's not, we'll probably see a third installment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm nervous that, you know, maybe we got 50% of the story in the first game of the background of how this all came together, and like we're gonna find out more nuggets in this game, but we'll get like 10% of that story because they want to spread it out and they can't just use it all up at once.
Yeah.
And it happens in TV, it happens in movies, it happens in every type of media. But that's my fear with this game, is that I'm somebody who, you know, I could take or leave the side quests. I really like when there's a main story that I care about, I just want to play that. And I'm afraid that like that's going to be very, very hard to get to. And the main story in this game is going to be with the characters on the world, of which none I care about.
Yeah, that's the other thing that like games have to balance, right? Because sometimes like they don't gate the main story, but they make it really hard to ignore any of the side content because otherwise you'd be like supremely underleveled. Like that balance is a pretty weird line to walk. Anyway, at the risk,
it's also really tough when like the biggest intrigue in the story is how this is Earth, like how is this the world? That's like really like the big mystery of the game, and like the thing that makes it unique is like this weird machine world that's like built on the crumbles of the society we live in currently.
Mm-hmm.
And uncovering that's like kind of like the isn't, I mean, that is the main storyline, but it makes everything that happens on Aloy's day-to-day feel inconsequential compared to the nuggets of underground story of the ruins of former man.
That's just a video game storytelling problem, you know.
Yeah.
At its core, like open world games. But yeah, I agree, definitely.
And I don't know, and again, I think this game will still be great. I just am concerned that, like, you know, we're gonna have Horizon Zero Dawn 6, and like that story will never really feel well enclosed because they can't.
I think we're more likely to get a reboot with like new characters than we would.
Let's go to Buffalo, New York, and see what it's like in.
But I mean, you look at The Last of Us, which is probably done. You look at Uncharted, that had 4 games. Like,
when do you think
I don't think it'll overstay its welcome.
Do you think that there will ever be like audio logs that are like podcasts from the past? Like maybe this could be an audio log in like a video game at one point in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, I hope so. Like it's just the 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, like as you're like traversing through the land, you listen to like an audio log that's a podcast from the past that like gives you that would kind of be fun.
Yeah, but I'm saying just kind of in that on that realm, like GTA kind of does that with their radio stations. Like there's some pretty long skits in that. Like
definitely, but that's what makes GTA 5, which I think is also coming out in 2021.
Yeah, again, yeah.
But I mean, that's what makes that game perpetual, right?
Right. There are only a couple certainties in life: taxes, death, and GTA 5 being released.
Do you think GTA 5's a PSVR 2 release?
No. Truth, I don't think so.
I was just saying it for the joke.
Yeah, Skyrim probably though.
Yeah.
All right. At risk of this being a 3-hour podcast, let's move on to our next game. I've got Deathloop, which we kind of mentioned earlier with the Arcane news. And this is one that I want to specifically talk about because I'm just like really pumped about it. That's coming out May 21st, 2021. I'll just read the description because it'll do a better job than I would. Deathloop has the player in the role of Colt, an assassin that is stuck in a time loop, waking up on a beach at the island of Black Reef. The other residents of Black Reef, a former army base, where strange experiments had once been held, have invested in the island and have gathered for this night to hold a party that seemingly lasts forever. As at the end of each night, the island resets to the start of the party in that time loop. Sorry, that was a really long sentence. But I think you guys got the gist of it. A lot of people on an island. He wakes up with like a Inception style, not knowing why he's there. They're throwing this everlasting party. Because of this reset, the partygoers pay no heed to their actions or deeds since they wake up at the start of the loop with no memories or effects of the previous loop. While Colt is part of this loop, he retains memories from each loop, learning the behaviors and patterns of the partygoers with each loop. So, we've kind of talked about trends in video games. I feel like one of the more recent ones are rogues, roguelikes, and roguelites, and like looped gameplay. You look at like the Other Wilds. Is Other Wilds from a couple years back? There was Outer Wilds and Other Wilds that came out at the same time. That's like a time loop. You look at Hades from this year's, which isn't a time loop, but it's like a rogue style. Like you learn a bit more every time you play in the storytelling. Deathloop isn't the only game on this list that kind of deals with like a time being stuck in a time loop. Actually, we'll get to that in a couple games. But this looks like Dishonored with more gunplay, and like I've watched a couple trailers. You're trying to kill like a certain number of targets to like either escape the island or discover how you can escape the island. And it feels like one of those where you'll get like it's almost Hitman-y in the sense where you can influence how the characters will act on the map at any given moment. Like, let's say you trigger some event or turn off a radio in one section, it might make someone attend a party in a different section. So you have two targets in the same area, and you subsequently make it further and further in the time loop. And that having control of that just seems, and the graphic style is obviously kind of Dishonored-y. It's also got this weird like 50s, 60s psychedelic vibe going for it that I'm into. And there also appears to be a multiplayer aspect where you can join a game as like a hunter, and you basically hunt the main character Colt also on the island.
That'll be a computer controlled opponent in mine. I don't know how I feel.
You think so?
That. Yeah. I don't want some like random person.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, no. I agree with that. I don't really want to interact with that because like I've been in Dark Souls where like the thing that pissed me off about Dark Souls is I could play multiplayer with a buddy to try and help me get through that game, and I needed it, but that also opened me to like someone who is way overpowered just coming in and wrecking me. So I totally get that. I don't think I will interact with that, but I'm sure some people actually like some masochists out there will really enjoy that. So I don't know if you've watched much on this game, Greg, but
yeah, I have.
It's I don't know if it's up your alley, but it's definitely up mine.
It sounds really cool. I mean, it's about time that Edge of Tomorrow's like awesomeness as a movie, although it was not appreciated its time. I don't know. I love that movie. Like, say what you will about Tom Cruise as a person, but that's one of like one of the cooler time loop IPs or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's just something really fun about that movie and just like intriguing. And it's weird that that's not a video game because video games are perfectly suited for it. And this game has that. So does Returnal, which we'll talk about later, or 12 Minutes, which we'll talk, mention later.
Yep.
But that's definitely, 2020 felt like a time loop, and 2021 might feel like a time loop of 2020. So what a perfect time
we just hit the reset button. Here we are. We all kept our memories though, unfortunately.
Hey, GTA 5's coming out on PS5.
What do you know? Red Dead 2. Wow, this is crazy. I don't know. Maybe that might
have a redemption.
Right. There might be. Now that I think about Deathloop, I would probably play that with you. I'd let you invade my game. That would be fun.
Yeah, but that's just because.
But just you. That's it.
Yeah. I'd let you invade my game, but like maybe we just like
maybe we work together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get to Returnal, Greg, why don't you take the next game we have here on our list, and that's Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, I love that this is a thing because I have played all of I want to say a lot of the movie-based Harry Potter movies that aren't Lego games. I played like most of the Lego versions of because I just love Harry Potter.
Did you play Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup?
Yes. Yeah, I sure did.
Nice. I remember getting that. Nice.
Yep. And there's just something like about Harry Potter that's just like an awesome IP, and it's very unique to a video game space to have like you literally swordless or melee-less,
Right.
but also playing an action adventure RPG where you are going to have combat. So there's something that could be interesting within this, um, and there's just something special about that world. There's just like intrigue and I don't know. There's a ton of lore for it already, so it's pretty. It should have like good story to it. It's set in the late 1800s, so it predates everything in the Potterverse, whether it be the terrible movies that they've been releasing, Magical Beasts, or
I like those
the actual.
movies. I'll admit it.
Oh, I can't.
I like that
I
it's
can't with
darker.
them.
I don't care. But yeah, go on. Sorry,
Yeah,
I don't
I
want.
mean,
I don't want to hijack to turn
neither
this
here
into a
nor
movie
there.
discussion.
Phew, we'll talk. Maybe they will have
Yeah.
like a movie
We'll
podcast
do-
at some point.
That'd be fun. If we get Patreon
yeah.
subscribers someday, we could do like movie casts or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
video game.
I guess this is holiday 2021, if not 2022, based on the pandemic. It feels like a holiday release because that's what Harry Potter the movies used to be. What's scary about
it's
this?
an action RPG, right? Is that
Yes.
okay?
But do you know the last game that Avalanche Software made prior to Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy, or Hogwarts Legacy, not Harry Potter?
Can't
If you guess it,
say I do.
will, without looking it up, I will give you the biggest high five.
No, I can't.
Cars 3 Driven to Win.
Really?
Cars 3 Driven to Win.
I thought Avalanche did like Mad Max and shit like that.
I looked them up on Wikipedia after seeing the like just going through and seeing that this was actually scheduled to slated to release. Their Wikipedia has them as proud developers of Cars 3 Driven to Win, Disney Infinity 3.0, Disney Infinity 2.0, Disney Infinity.
Oh, you know
Cars
what?
2, Toy Story 3, Bolt, Meet the Robinson, and then everyone remembers this timeless classic, Chicken Little, Ace in Action.
You know what? I'm mixing it up because there's Avalanche Software and then there's Avalanche Studios.
Yeah, this is
So Avalanche Studios
Software.
did Just Cause, Mad Max. They worked on Rage 2. So that's who I thought was working on it, but
no, these are also, and to their credit, they do have some, like really like high powered games like Rugrats Royal Ransom back in 2002. So probably different developers working on this game. That's a bit old. That's concerning. I'm sure that it's Warner Brothers. They have all the money in the world. They can't let this game fail, you'd think, but they could. We've seen how many bad Star Wars games in the past and how many other big IPs that try to come to video games that just
Right.
fail. But that's very concerning to me. The good thing, though, is we're not getting a Potterverse. Harry Potter doesn't exist. Voldemort doesn't exist. All of the IP that's out there for Harry Potter that's like, on screen, it does not exist. So they've got a good chance here. But tale of caution on the developer. We have no idea.
the nice thing, like,
and
if we
Cars
want
3 did get called like a very good game to play with kids. It got a score of 59 on or 5.7 on Nintendo Life, so that's
solid. The one thing we can take solace in is that game was developed 2017 release, and
yeah, and then they left, and then they got rebought. So.
Right, so there was probably a ton of turnover there. So I would imagine a lot of the pedigree, at that company there's some new blood that have experience with like RPGs. One would hope. I hope it's not overly hampered by like it looks like they did all those Disney Infinity games too. I think those were okay for what they were. So I don't know. It's one of the I think for me it's gonna be a wait and see. Like I want to see what's the gameplay loop, right?
Yeah, the scary thing about it is just like there's not like a lot of articles about them like acquiring another studio and merging or something like that. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm hopeful, but it just
Look, it can't be worse than all the other Harry Potter games that have come out, right? It looks like they're giving it the old college try, at least. So, like, if it's a disappointment, it's at that point, it's just another Harry Potter game, right?
This would be one game that, like, I know we talked about motion controls being bad, but on a Switch, like, using a wand or something,
Oh
that would
yeah,
be a good like
that'd be fun.
implementation of motion controls. Um, yeah, I just don't know. Again, although the combat would be unique, I don't think that at the same point it's when you're like casting a spell, do you just like spam circle to like stupefy and then like you knock out a little creature or something? I don't
Right.
know what that's gonna feel like. So curious, intrigued, excited, nervous.
Curious. Were
Yeah.
any of the ghosts that were alive in during
No,
Harry's time? Were
they're
they in
super old.
school? They're super old. Okay, so they would still be around then as ghosts,
Yeah,
right? So like you'll still see
potentially.
some characters. I
Again,
guess.
though, like that then you're hitting like a big piece of IP there. So I mean, they might have them in there, but then do you have like the
There's
same
gonna be
voice
some.
actors?
There's gonna be some fan service, right? There's got to be
Yeah,
at some point.
yeah.
Um,
I think you actually play as Dobby.
do you do you know if that's funny you
Well,
say that, but
Gollum's
there's
coming out
literally
this year, right?
there's literally a
So,
Gollum game coming out.
which
So I was gonna say
I don't even know about
I
it.
didn't put on my list, but
No, that
you know,
that is
I,
a purposeful exclusion from
I'll
my
take a
list.
look at it. I don't know. Up next, as we mentioned before, Returnal, which is made by Housemark. Housemark, if you're not familiar, has done. They actually have a pretty. They're pretty prolific. Like they did a lot of twin stick shooters, especially like starting with. Well, they go way back, but they had Super Stardust, Resogun, Alien Nation. I played Dead Nation on the PS3. That game was actually kind of fun for a while. It's actually I think when PlayStation Plus went down for a while back in the PS3, one of their apologies, they gave out Dead Nation for free. And that's why I played it. That game was actually pretty fun. And then more recently, Nex Machina and Matterfall, which feel like they came out yesterday, but I guess that was all the way back in 2017. So Returnal, it still seems like they're going for some sort of like bullet hell, but it's actually a third-person action game with roguelike elements. And I'll just read off. I'll read off the description now. Returnal is a third-person shooter featuring roguelike elements set in a futuristic science fiction setting. The player controls Celine, a female space pilot equipped with a suit and armed with high-tech weapons, who is stranded on an alien planet and stuck in a time loop. Sound familiar? After every death, the pilot is resurrected, following a pattern of traversing across foreign environments and combating extraterrestrial entities with growing visions in an ever-changing world. So that actually comes out March 19th of this year. I think they actually just announced the release date this week, I believe. So I don't know. I don't know what it is about this game. I don't feel like super pumped about it, like the setting, but it looks. I feel like it's gonna look pretty good. And knowing Housemark and their pedigree with like bullet hells, I feel like it'll play pretty well.
Yeah, part of it's the name for me. There's
Yeah,
something wrong
like
with
that's
the name.
Returnal.
It's like so I looked up the guy's name so I could say it, but then I realized it was super Finnish and I'll get it wrong, but I'll still try it anyways. Alari Kutinen. It sounds like his dad named the game. Oh, what is it? You just return back to your body and you don't die fully. What is that?
Returnal.
Returnal.
Yeah.
It's like there's just something weird in that name. Like I just feel like weird or like almost like
It feels like a name
it's
that was
an
like
odd euphemism
QA'd to
for a
death.
game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel. Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
just like Returnal. Like
Yeah.
it's just, there's something there that just feels weird and gross saying it.
right?
Is that? Do you feel that at all, or am I just weird? I don't.
No,
just weird,
no,
too.
I don't. I don't really like that. When they first announced it, I was like, all right. I mean, that looks kind of cool, but that name kind
I
of
mean, it's
sucks.
got
Like
one
that was
letter
my
off
first
of like
thought.
having like returnal in it, and like I don't know. There's something weird about it, man. And like
Yeah.
that is the reason this game is doomed. Is because nobody like said the name a bunch of times and looked at it and was just like, man, this word's a little dirty, isn't it? And
Yeah.
maybe they wanted that stink on it. I don't know.
Well, let's see how it plays, because like I said, Housemark's got the
What if you
pedigree.
find out that you're in a butt the whole time?
I just don't think that I'm gonna care about the story that much. Like it depends how they like how are they gonna handle it? Like is it just gonna turn out to be this weird like Ex Machina thing? Like how do they explain it? It's just
Well,
going
it's
to end
all
up being some
metaphor for farts. It's like endlessly attempting to get out of-
extraterrestrial.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've said enough on Returnal. March 19th. I don't know. I'll play it. I think I'll play it. I'm honestly starving for more stuff to play on my PS5 that's
And it's
like
just
next
weird,
gen.
right? Like it is
Yeah.
a weird game. Like it's new, it's different, it's got some.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those I
gotta-
could throw on the TV and like Alex would sit down and be like, "What's this?" Like,
And you're like Returnal, and he's like, dude, what? The
dude,
hell? Like,
what? Don't say that
go to
to
your
me.
room, man.
Get
Like,
away
just
from
do
me.
that alone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of good names, we've got Vampire:
Ooh,
The
can we write an
Masquerade
article- Sorry,
Dash.
can we write an article called like the odd stink of Returnal if it doesn't do well? Or like
All
we
right,
don't like
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we'll put it on breadradio.com whenever I make that.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Vampire: The Masquerade Dash Bloodlines 2. Which is just another game. So, Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2, Hardsuit Labs, published by Paradox, coming out in 2021. I'll just read the description. I haven't done too much research on this, so this is probably gonna be one we like go over pretty quickly. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is an upcoming action role-playing video game developed by Hardsuit Labs and published by Paradox Interactive. Wow, they nailed it better than I could. A sequel to Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2004, the game is part of the World of Darkness series and based on the tabletop role-playing game Vampire: The Masquerade. Bloodlines 2 follows a human in the 21st century Seattle who is killed and revived as a thin blood vampire with relatively weak vampiric abilities. I put this on here because I'm kind of into I feel like there's also been a recent trend of like some ARPGs coming out, like Divinity, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be coming out soon. If this if you're able to play this at all multiplayer, I'd love to play it with some friends, like Divinity Original Sin. Like I'm looking for something else like that. But if it's single player, I might dodge it. But I don't know. I think it's cool that a property can come back after 16 years. And I think the resurgence of like tabletop games is, I don't know, it's good for games, in my opinion. So I'll watch their future with great intrigue. But I don't know if I'll seek out a bunch of content on Bloodlines. And I think I probably speak for you too there, Greg.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. I don't. This is another exclusion on my document here, so I don't really have too much to add there.
All right. Up next, another one I haven't done a ton of research on, but I feel like I will read off some about it. It's called The Medium, which is made by Bloober Team, which is when I looked them up, I was like, oh, wow, they've actually, I know I said pedigree a lot in the last 5 minutes, but they've got a pedigree in horror games. They've done Bloober Team's behind Layers of Fear, Observer, and more recently Blair Witch. So as you can assume, The Medium is also in the horror genre. The Medium is a psychological horror game played in the third person as Marianne, a medium who can travel into the spirit realm. Being able to inhabit both worlds aids puzzle solving. Her psychic abilities may also be used against hostile forces and are recharged by interacting with the energy spots called spirit wells. Not the best description. I could have probably done better there. But I don't know. I again, horror games not really for me. I'm sure I'll watch someone play this at some point. I had to mention it just because based on the developer, it seems like yes, a natural progression for them to keep going into the horror genre. So we'll watch that game. I think it's supposed to come out the end of this month on Windows and Xbox Series X or S. So if one of you guys end up picking it up out there and want to let us know how it plays, go ahead and write into breadradiolive@gmail.com the end of this month. I'm really interested. I'll definitely watch it. This is one of those games I'll definitely pull up a stream just to see what the loop's like. And Greg, I think I speak for you when I say there's not much here. So next we have another game Greg's going to take, one that I'm excited for because I just did a playthrough of the one that came out on PS4. Take it away.
Yeah, it's Ratchet and Clank. This is something that
Rift
I think
Apart.
we touched on in a previous podcast, so I don't really want to. I'm not going to really go too deep into like.
Did we?
the game itself. Yeah, I think we did because I think we were talking. I think it was mentioned.
It probably came up in the context. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but this is just like one of those games where like it is what Astro's Playroom kind of is like in a full title. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna take advantage of everything
It's
the
gonna look
PS5
so
can
good.
do well. It's gonna make that controller. There's gonna be something crazy with the weapons where it just feels great. I don't have one of those yet, so hopefully, I'll be able to get it by the time this game's out. But you never know with how those releases have been. I should have just bought the one I had in my cart. I don't know.
Should have done it.
But it's gonna be 4K 60 FPS, which is sweet. Not that I think 4K is really necessary, but
It's
it's
gonna
gonna
look
look
good.
beautiful. Yeah, I mean it's gonna have amazing level creation. It's gonna be beautiful. The gameplay mechanics in these games are always fun. The gadgets and weapons are fun to use and upgrade and level up. And
I just wish there were more games like Ratchet and Clank out there, man. I really do.
yeah,
It's cool.
yeah.
Man.
There's just something special about that series.
It really is.
So I mean, do you have anything else that you want to add to that within Ratchet?
Yeah,
and
it's
Clank?
kind of
I've got a couple names missing on your list that I was gonna toss in there as well.
Sure, yeah, we can cover another right after this if you'd like. But the only other thing I want to say is like I think it's going to be using the SSD in the PS5 pretty it's called a Rift Apart, and basically you're going to be snapping in between different realities to like solve different levels, and you can send enemies to like different worlds to with some of your weapons. So it's going to be putting in work the SSD with loading new
Get your
environments
fans ready.
pretty fast. Honestly, my PS5 has been really quiet. The only thing that's really annoying, two things I'll bring up. The short segue. First of all, every time I have a PS4 disc in for Tom Clancy's Siege, but I have the PS5 version, it does a 60 gig install of the PS4 version as well. It's driving me insane. Like that I have to keep deleting this
That's
thing.
really silly.
It's so silly. Like why is there no what? That's all I've got there. And then actually that rant made the fans themselves are really quiet, but when you have a disc in, it runs the disc check like I feel like more often than it did on the PS4, and that's loud. Like the disc drive is loud, but the fans are quiet. It's crazy. It makes the disc drive's like too loud compared to the rest of the system, and it runs so often that like it kind of negates.
That's a really weird like thing.
Yeah, there are just a couple decisions that Sony made that, like, again, I know released in a pandemic, it'll get better. I'm essentially a beta tester, yada yada yada, but still, they're kind of head scratching. I'm sure there was some ops guy there who was like, I don't like this, but they're like, we're sending it anyway, you know.
Well,
but
I mean, the truth of the matter is even though like people bought the disc version and like it's a viable thing to want, at the same time, they know that if there was something wrong with the disk drive, they were willing to call it a day and say, you know what, is anyone buying physical copies? Okay.
Yeah.
And just move on.
Yeah, we'll get there, but I think the infrastructure of the world, like, I mean, you look at America, like, again, we've had this discussion before, but we have great speeds, but there are some people that still have like hardcore data caps and really slow speed.
But don't
So
you
like
have to
until our
always
infrastructure,
do like a download with disc version. I haven't bought a disc since Horizon Zero Dawn, I think. No, it was actually before that.
no,
Uncharted
not. I mean,
4 was
not
the last
always.
disc
There's
I
always
bought.
a day one patch, which I think is kind of annoying. But like you can still, there's some games you can just put in and play. Like Persona
Okay.
5, when I first had it, like I just put it in and play.
Okay.
Played. I
fair
didn't
enough.
even
I
have
thought
to.
that there was always like an accompanying install alongside of it, so I didn't know.
No, the disc will sometimes install, like data from the disc, but not all. Like if there's a patch, like that's it usually.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So keeping that in mind, also, it's just like, not only are people downloading the game, they're downloading the patch, and if they have a data cap, like we're looking at some downloads that are north of 100 gigs, and it's just a lot for some people, which I get. I think we are. You're right. We're very quickly headed towards the digital future. I just think we're not quite there yet because, you've got to cater to the lowest common denominator. You know.
Yeah. The only reason that actually I was more interested in the disc version is just because streaming movies versus getting like the Ultra HD Blu-ray or whatever
Yeah.
the label of it is. Apparently, like the disc looks a lot better, so that's the only reason I was curious about it. But not curious enough to check out my Target card when I had the pre-order.
I actually have some Blu-rays. I need to
Well, you have to get
throw
like
those
the
in.
new Blu-ray. Like there's
Of
like
course there is, right?
yeah, it's like it's like a reformatted Blu-ray drive. So
Still, I have Cowboy Bebop on Blu-ray, and I just want to see what the upres looks like on that. Probably.
yeah, it probably looks great.
Sweet.
That's actually, if you don't have like a streaming stick or one that you're super happy with,
Mhm.
that's why like Nvidia's Shield is so cool, is because it upscales content to 4K for you. So if you don't have like streaming, like if you're like streaming something or even like watching a sports game, it actually upscales to 4K, so you get more mileage out of it than other streaming sticks. So that's kind of cool.
That is rad.
So have you seen Outriders?
No, I haven't. Yeah, take the next couple. While
Yeah,
you're describing it,
so-
I'll look it up.
So it's from People Can Fly, published by Square Enix. It's called Outriders. I watched some of the gameplay of it. Basically, the synopsis that I found online is you play as a member of humanity who has to flee Earth and has landed on a planet called Enoch. But an immense storm called the Anomaly forces them back into cryostasis, and when they awake, they find themselves imbued with ridiculous powers. It's Mass Effect meets Doom, and we are so in, is what they say, and I kind of am too. Really, what I would say is, although it has some Mass Effect and Doom elements to it, it also
Oh.
feels a lot like Gears of War watching the gameplay, and it just looks fun.
I-
It just looks like just good shooting.
I remember watching some
Third
people
person.
playing like an alpha or like a preview of this like earlier last year. Yeah, this looks cool, man. It's multiplayer? Like, is it massively multiplayer, or is it like
I know
wave
it's an
based?
RPG shooter. And like they say Doom in here.
20 so it comes out April 1st, 2021. PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One,
don't
and
know
Series
if it's
X,
multiplayer.
and
I
Windows.
didn't look that up.
Cooperative role playing. So it must
Yeah.
be. So I don't know how many people can play, but that's cool.
But it just looks cool. I don't know. I'm down for this.
Yeah, I am too. Honestly, this seems like something I would definitely give that a shot with you.
So the next one that I wanted to bring up is called Bright Memory Infinite. Have you seen this?
I have not.
Okay. Imagine it's sexy time between Destiny and Ghost of Tsushima, but it's 2036.
All right.
So it's got a lot of parkour, but it
right.
has samurais, swords.
Wait, I need to digest your first sentence first. Could you say that
Okay.
again?
Imagine if Destiny's gunplay and Ghost of Tsushima had a weird baby in 2036,
Okay.
right?
All right. Yeah, I think I'm with you again.
Add some parkour in there. So you got
Some
you
Mirror's
got some
Edge.
samurais,
All right.
you got swords, you got guns. It's a fast action game with touches of FPS where you get a bunch of different combos and you're in a futuristic city playing as an agent for the Supernatural Science Research Organization.
That's
You've been
so
sent out to
bland. It's
discover
cool.
I know. Well, it's like I think all the trailers I watched of it, I believe, were in Japanese. So, yeah.
So
If you want to pull up
an
a video of
Xbox
it on
game?
YouTube, Xbox, a PC.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, Bright Memory Infinite. There's something about this game that just looks really freaking cool, man. I don't know if it's just because it's futuristic samurais or what, but it just looks cool. I don't know when the actual release date is, but like the reason I say that, if you haven't looked at any of the gameplay on this, but if you just pop on YouTube and just look at the next gen trailer, there's all of a sudden like they show this person grappling across the map, and then a guy with a shield comes up and an axe, and then all of a sudden they're grappling that guy and they're freezing him in air and then slicing him in half with a sword and then shooting at the next opponent's shield with their shotgun and then grappling him and then punching him and stuff.
So it looks
I
pretty
don't know, man.
smooth, like
Yeah, it just looks
Like almost
smooth,
like
and and it
Warframe-y.
also just like, and then if you look at the scenery around, although it's some dystopian 2036 samurai game, it's also looks like Ghost of Tsushima with all the pretty colorful trees and old buildings and things. But it's also then has like this crazy remote controlled car that pulls up. I don't know. I'm just kind of like giving you like the Chris Collinsworth on this gameplay trailer, but it
I'm
just
trying
looks like really wild. I don't
I guess
know
I'm
if it's
trying to
gonna be good.
understand what it is. So, okay, so when I looked into this game, there's Bright Memory or Bright Memory Episode 1, which came
It's
out.
Bright Memory Infinite.
I know, but it came out on iOS in 2019, and then Windows and Android and Xbox in 2020. And then instead of doing Episode 2, they're remaking the game, expanding the gameplay, and calling it Bright Memory Infinite. So it's like an expansion remake of this game
So it's
that weirdly came out in iOS first. I don't know. That's kind of
Interesting.
crazy. But
Yeah,
I don't know
see
like
that
how
like somebody on the YouTube comments, Snoozy says this game's predecessor, Bright Memory on PC, already looks extremely close to this. You can almost expect it to look like this. So I guess there's a predecessor already on PC.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found this game when I was looking up 2021
That's cool.
games and just looked kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because there's just something like it wasn't unique in the sense that like there was samurais with Ghost of Tsushima, but 2036 samurais
Yeah.
for the Supernatural Science Research Organization.
It's
That's
funny
neat.
that you said that because the genres are literally first person shooter, hack and slash. Like that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you said it was. So I'll have
there's-
to look into that. What
so
else
there's
you got?
also like another by I think who was the developer on this? Nomada 12 minutes, another time loop. I think that came out in E3 last year and we talked about it, but
Can
your
you say
husband
that
who's
again?
stuck-
What's it called?
12 minutes.
12 minutes. Okay.
And so it's a time loop. Your
Nice.
a husband whose romantic evening with your wife quickly turns into a nightmare when a police officer breaks into your house and accuses your wife of murder. You're suddenly returned to the moment before everything unfolded, and as you go through each time loop, you have to work to change your fate and break the loop once and for all. So, again, it takes inspiration from things like Memento and all these other, movies that did time loops. And so it's an indie title. It's like an over top, I believe, like
Yeah,
kind of
top down
like-
perspective.
yeah, but it just looks it looks to be like an interesting like kind of puzzle to solve, and it just has like I don't know, like again that time loop sort of concept that this one's a lot more story driven. The game doesn't look super beautiful or anything like the other two should be, but at the same time it just might be interesting.
So like while the main loop, so every time you go through the loop, you literally like you play 12 minutes in real time.
Exactly.
Huh. Oh, that's cool. So not to segue away from some of your list, but this is published by Annapurna Games or Annapurna Games, Annapurna Interactive. And they're also they're coming out with a game on my list called Stray. Which not to totally do you have anything else to say about 12
No,
minutes
I
before
don't
we
really
go to
have much
Stray?
else on this game.
That looks cool. I 2021, man, it's the year of time loops and I'm here for it. So
Yeah,
I'm about it.
2021 is the year of time loops, and I'm in for it as well.
Well, the thing is, like run-based gameplay or loop-based gameplay, we've talked about like ad nauseum the games respecting your time. Like, if I can sit down and do one run or one loop of a game like 30 or 40 minutes, I can set the controller down and feel like satisfied and walk away from it. So I kind of like it. I'm here for it. That's why I'm here for it.
It's also interesting in the sense that sorry, time loops. I just like I want to make a bit of it, but whatever.
I was like, what just happened? I was having a
but,
stroke.
It's one of those things where with time loops is we talk about quests being redundant, but like this is going to be redundant, but purposefully, and then like kind of just like embellished upon in each loop, which almost makes it feel more rewarding than when you have to do the 9th fest quest for the 7th village that you visited.
Yeah, that's a
like, at
great
least,
point.
Like that feels like, oh, you're just extending and ruining my time value. But here you're saying this is the game. You're buying into that from that moment that you know that there's no unique gameplay outside of this loop, but we're gonna add stuff to this loop.
That's also the challenge in that game design too, because you have to like you have to be like your first few loops have to be satisfying enough and demonstrate enough like ability to move forward that keeps the player engaged.
Of course. I mean, there's Inception and there's Tenet. Like there's always going to be flops when it comes to manipulating time within media, but at the same point, there's something to it that, especially in an indie game where it's like a lot of text based, I could see that 12 minutes could have a lot of awesome kind of content to see within it, and just kind of like puzzles within it.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Also by Annapurna Interactive, we have Stray, and this is very different than 12 Minutes, but Stray is a third-person cat adventure game set amidst the detailed neon-lit alleys of a decaying cyber city and the murky environments of its seedy underbelly. Roam surroundings high and low, defending against unforeseen threats, and solve mysteries of this unwelcoming place inhabited by nothing but unassuming droids and dangerous creatures. So, I don't think the description like inspires a ton of hope, but the trailer, I don't know, it just looked like it was graphically impressive. Like it was part of a game showcase, of course, for the PlayStation. But it seems like one of those, especially since it's a cat main character, that I could get like Haley into. In fact, I showed her the trailer and she's like, "Oh wow, yeah, I want to see that." So
it looks like Cat Punk 2077.
Yeah, it's that like if you watch the trailer, like the cat's going around, it seems to be like it's like a normal-ish
like
cyberpunk city, but yeah, every human, quote unquote, is a robot still, and there's some mystery as to why, I guess. But yeah, I want to see that. So, sorry for cutting you off there. It was a perfect segue.
Oh, no.
What else you got on your list?
I have two more. One's Everwild, which I don't know that that's coming out this upcoming year, but that's one of the big Xbox IPs, right?
Shoot your shot. Yeah.
So, there's not a lot out about the game. It literally, there's just not. But
what is it supposed to be? I feel like I've seen. Oh, I remember watching that. Yeah, I just don't know what it.
Like
what is it?
It's like a fantasy world. And it looks beautiful. It's kind of cartoony.
It's like cell shaded.
It looks like it could be like some sort of like, I don't know, like some sort of Zelda competitor type of like action exploration, sort of adventure.
Exploration
deal
RPG
with
almost.
Like different weird, crazy big animals and stuff like that. And it's just like not like super. It's like a very cartoony, almost like 3D Avatar sort of like animation style, and it just I don't know. There's just like it just looks like it could be pretty awesome. I don't really know.
It looks like it's coming to Game Pass day one too.
Yeah, there's no gameplay footage of it, but it's going to be a big IP for Xbox if it does well. So there's that.
Yeah. Most recent news I can find on is October 2020. The original IP's most senior creative resigned this month, which happens. Like it happens at a ton of studios. Not a great sign for it, but it's rare. It's
not Dragon Scales or whatever that game was. What was it? Dragonborn?
Dragon Age?
Dragon Age. Wait.
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Is that the one with Xbox that completely... Scaleborn? No, Scaleborn.
What was Scale? Oh, man. That's a blast of the past. Scalebound. We got there. Yeah, that got canceled.
Yeah, just hardcore canceled. So hopefully not that.
Wow. Yeah.
The other game that I stumbled upon, looking up, just different games that are coming out is a strategy-based game called Evil Genius 2. I've never played the first one, but I just saw a gameplay of it and it just looked fun. It basically, in Evil Genius 2, it's like it kind of is like Incredibles art style, very much so. And basically, you set up your base, you staff it with different, as this person put it, mooks, build traps to keep out the good guys, and basically try to foil the good guys in like a reverse a bad guy ran tower defense sort of strategy game.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're keeping the superhero out almost.
Yep, it's like they call it spy-fi in their own words, where you're the criminal mastermind. You construct your base, train your minions, and defend your operations from the forces of justice and achieve global domination. So it just seems like a goofy, fun strategy game that doesn't look like it'll be anything like a Civilization in a way, but it have some of those elements. But also just like has like a really fun cartoon, like essentially it looks like The Incredibles in a way, sort of style to it, where you're the evil guy building your island base. So I just think that's fun.
Well, I'm gonna have to remove that part of the podcast, but I totally just tried to find the Steam page so I could add it to my wish list. But yeah, I definitely want to try this out. So sorry if I don't get all of the music out of there, but yeah, Evil Genius 2. I like tower defense games, honestly.
Yeah, it just seemed like just really like I just love like the bright color. Like it's like Ratchet and Clank in a sense of like that art style and just the kind of escape of realistic gritty games. It just kind of excited me.
Yeah. I swear, man, my Steam videos literally never load right away. And that time it was before the mute button popped up. Like that's
and then just real timing. Quickly to I just have 4 titles. I'm not going to go into detail about them. Super Mario 3D World, it was only on Wii U. Interested to try it. Pokemon Snap 2, possible. And then Beyond Good and Evil 2, just heard a lot of it. I don't really know much about the game itself. And also, I don't really want to play it, but I'm just interested to see if Skull and Bones is actually a game that ever releases.
Yeah, I remember I think it was last week you brought that up. I don't know that it does. Is there a market for that? Like, does anyone, like, I don't want to, like, just openly shit on it, but I guess I'm about to. Like, does anyone want that game? Like,
do
you want
6
that
years
game?
Ago after Assassin's Creed 4, but nobody wants it now, I don't think.
Right.
It's a pirate and naval warfare game. I just think that like it's too old now. If it was something where, again, to reference a previous game, if it was something like what we learned, Outriders was, where you could have like a team of like you and your friends being pirates and like having like a beautiful world and not be like what's that other game?
Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves. Maybe that'd be something, but I just don't see any market for it 100%, but it is going to be coming out. They've been in development with it for way too long, and they're still saying that it's going to come out in March. On Google, that's what it says. Initial release date, March 2021. So.
Yeah, we'll see about that, I guess. Anything else? I saw a couple others on your list, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about them. I'm excited. First of all, I'm excited about Pokemon Snap. Like that, I feel like that's a game people have been begging for a while. So hopefully they do it some justice. I
think that's all the games on my list. The only other thing that I really had on here that I thought was interesting was Nintendo Switch Pro Edition.
Yeah.
Potential hints at an OLED screen in 4K.
That's crazy. Happen. Yeah. That feels crazy.
At the same point, I just think it's interesting that that'll be coming out, and it makes sense given the PS5 and Xbox launches. And 3080 Ti was their hardware piece that I was interested in coming out.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to, like, even the PC that I'm doing this podcast on right now, I'm thinking about selling it so I can save up for a new rig this year. Because what, like I was telling you, the one I built over at Haley's is it's a Ryzen 2700X and a 5700 XT, which is, I don't know, it's like an i7 something equivalent plus a 2070 Super equivalent.
Yeah.
So that'll do me well for a while.
Is the worst time with all these shortages. So.
Well, I think it's the best time to sell.
Probably good time to sell, bad time to buy.
Yeah, I'm not looking. It's more just like trying to knock down my debt, so when I do buy, I don't feel like the guiltiest motherfucker on the planet. You know.
Yeah, I took my stimulus check and put it towards a laptop. Because I'm really upset with my Surface Book because it just can't do anything. It can barely run Hearthstone.
Oof.
And
that's not a good look.
So, with tax over $1,000, I got the Asus, an open box Asus Zephyrus G14, I think is the label on it, and it's got a 2060 AMD Mobile 9. And it was just over $1,000, and I was like, "What the heck?" Like, as long as there's nothing wrong with the open box, like, I'm probably gonna keep it. I might return it because it might be just a waste of money. I don't really need another computer. But it's crazy how cheap like the assembled laptop is versus if you were to part out that system right now with the way the market is, it'd probably be ridiculously expensive or impossible to buy.
Yeah. No, the market out there is, I mean, anything you want, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox. Graphics card, it's madness out there, man. It's crazy. Not enough silicon in the world to keep up with demand right now.
Yeah.
Which is partially like why I don't know what to price this beast I have over here at, like, because it still runs really well. So just more like I have 3 PCs. I should probably get rid of one before I think about
I'm in the same boat, and
buying another.
Think I'm gonna put in a new SSD because currently I stripped the other one to use for other things. And I'm actually think I'm gonna give it to my boss for his daughter because it's at a point where like you can't really upgrade it anymore.
Right.
The motherboard's old. It's a 5-6 year old motherboard. Like you're not gonna get a new processor to really run in there. It doesn't even support DDR4. But it's fine for her to play like Minecraft or whatever else Fortnite would work on there. I don't know what she plays or uses it for, but I'm just gonna rehouse it in a new case and pop an SSD in there and just give it to him because he's a great guy, and I think it's kind of cool to like,
pay it forward.
I don't need the money, so I'd rather just give it away and let somebody enjoy it rather than like sell it to somebody who would strip it and part it out because it was the first computer I ever built. So I think that would be like a more fitting ending for that computer's life.
Yeah, that it makes sense. That's good of you too. Just a few more games here to get through before the end of the show. My list, I've got Kena Bridge of Spirits, that also kind of was born out of the games display this summer from PS5. It's Kena Bridge of Spirits is an upcoming action-adventure game developed and published by Ember Lab. It's slated for March 2021. The story follows Kena, a young spirit guide who uses her magical abilities to help deceased people move from the physical to the spirit world. The game is presented through a third-person perspective. Player uses Kena's staff for attacking enemies and her pulse ability for defending against attacks. They are tasked with collecting small spirit companions known as the Rot, who help to complete tasks and battle against enemies. It's that type of... It's kind of got the Spyro art style, which... like I said, I think I'm just like feeling like I want that. And I'm feeling like I want action adventure games in my life that I can chill and play. So that I'm just on board for it. I'm looking forward to it. This game seems to have generated a lot of buzz over the last summer. And I don't know, I'm learning more and more about the types of games I like, and I think like exploration and puzzle driven open worlds are totally my jam, and this feels like one of those. So I don't know if you've watched anything on this game though, Greg.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. It kind of sounds like a little bit more of what you were asking for in the Ratchet and Clank sort of vibes.
Right.
Yeah.
Dying Light 2. I have 2021 with 2 question marks because this is one of those that seems like it's been in development hell for a while. It was originally supposed to come out early last year, but in January the game suffered a pretty major delay. I think they said they basically delayed it indefinitely, and it hasn't really had a release window since. Their then head writer Chris Avellone and their creative director clashed over the direction of the game, and then Avellone was ousted from Techland, the developer, not on the best terms. I think there was some... I don't want to misreport here, but it was not on the best terms, is what I'll say. And then recently in the news, they lost another creative force as their art director and writer, Pavel Selinger. Again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, left the studio after 22 years. So this just seems... I don't know what it is. Like, Dying Light 1, great game, and it seems like they've supported it forever. They even did like this weird BR thing for it. But Dying Light 2 is one of those that seemed kind of cursed for a long time. Similar to another game we were just talking about, Greg, like Dead Island, there was supposed to be a third one that came out a few years ago, and that was stuck in development hell. So I don't know what it is with these open world zombie games, but they're not doing too hot. So we'll see if 2021 we see one of these release. I'd say Dying Light.
I'm excited for Back 4 Blood. I think that'll definitely come out.
And yeah, I forgot to mention that on here.
It looks very much like after seeing people play the alpha, it looks very Left 4 Dead 2.
Well, Turtle Rock were the devs on Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, it looks Valve. Like a near clone, like same zombie types and everything. But like, I'm cool. I'm all in for that. I can't wait to play that with you. So
yeah, that's gonna be. We're definitely gonna have to get a couple guys to play with us, and that comes out this year. So yeah, Back 4 Blood, guys or gals
or cats from Stray. I'm down.
Cats from Stray. Anyone
or cats from the movie Cats. but are humans but cats?
Pass on that one.
What? Right,
that movie, I don't know, man. Also coming out these, I really don't have anything to say about this one, but I know people have been stoked about it. But Psychonauts 2 is slated to come out this year. Anything, Greg? Feel free to just pass. No? Okay. And
I thought I said pass, but
oh,
yeah,
no,
I just
didn't
didn't have
hear
much
anything.
else to add there.
Okay. And last but not least on the list, I have Monster Hunter Rise. I'm not a big Monster Hunter guy. I tried to get into it. But it's coming to the Switch, which I like. Monster Hunter was on the DS and was really popular on the DS, and traditionally like mobile like units. So Monster Hunter coming to the Switch is pretty big for a lot of people. And I know the most recent Monster Hunter World performed pretty damn well. So that's slated to come out this year. I don't think it has a release date yet. But yeah, man, that's 2021. Like, how now that we've listed them all out, I'm pretty excited, man. There's some games to play, and I'm here for it. How about you, man? Let's say, name two. I won't make you do one. But what are your two most highly anticipated games out of what we talked about today?
Not for quality, but Harry Potter for
just like pure curiosity.
Yeah, pure curiosity. Or not Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy. It's tough because I don't have a PS5 right now, so for me to say a PS5 game is a little bit awkward in that regard. I do really think that now knowing that Outriders is actually something that you and I can play together, that just seems really fun. I loved Gears of War, and watching that gameplay trailer made me think of Gears of War with the way the shotgun worked and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of like like it seems like you kind of just load into level and just shoot a bunch of things. I don't know. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Back 4 Blood 2 for the same reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to say like a game that I'm just excited to see what it is as well, I would say like Hogwarts Legacy. I'm just interested to see what that is as a game. If it's anything like Cars 3 Driven to Win, should be good.
Yeah, classic.
But also, I mean, like if Starfield is actually going to come out this year, that could be just like, like that could just be like the deep sleeper, awesome game. So,
I'm gonna say doubt, but yeah, it could be cool.
Oh, definitely doubt, but
yeah,
that I mean, there's the games I put on my list were all because I intend to play them. So
yeah,
except for like maybe like Bright Memory Infinite, even though it looks kind of crazy, sometimes those games like just end up not being something I'm interested in.
All form, no function.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really. That's not really like a full answer to it, yes, but I think Deathloop as well is something that just seems like it'd be really cool.
That Deathloop is the one I have that I'm like, I want to play this game. The cop out ones, obviously God of War and Horizon, like I want to play those, but I don't know. Those feel like easy picks. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And then actually one I skipped over by accident, but Ghostwire Tokyo, Tango Gameworks, should be coming out this year. Action adventure game, first person perspective, and you use like psychic and paranormal abilities to defeat ghosts and spirits haunting Tokyo. Like I want to see what that game is. So for me, Deathloop, Ghostwire, I really want to see what Stray is. But I don't know. They're just Hitman, of course. There are just some good games coming out this year, and of course, Outriders, like you mentioned. I'm feeling pretty optimistic
tough, right?
about 2021 and
yeah,
games.
It's tough because like 2021 definitely want to see an end to the pandemic, but also we'll lose a lot of time that I have to play games. So
yeah, what's gonna happen when we have to go out in the world?
What are we doing here? Do we get as long as people aren't getting killed by it anymore, maybe we just say like, what, I'm just gonna quarantine a couple extra months just to be safe.
Right. Yeah, so I'm gonna quarantine until 2023 just to be safe.
Yeah. I've got a lot of games on Steam that I haven't been.
Got to get through the backlog.
And even now, I don't feel like I have time. What's it going to be like when I got to commute?
I know, right? Man, I can't wait till I install my Switch on my steering wheel. It's going to be amazing. Play some Mario Kart with the gyro controls.
Yeah, dude, motion controls in the car.
Right. It just makes sense.
Motion controls in the whip. That could be a rap line in the future.
There you go.
Motion control in the whip.
It's got something with a Tesla because like you'll just be. Anyway, up next week. Truth is, all I have here is news, games, etc. Because I think we're kind of going back. We've got through Game of the Year. We got through the preview for this year. We can really just sort of dig into some of the news stories and new releases coming out. Hopefully, Greg and I will have some time, as we said, in quarantine, to play some more games and talk about those in depth. I'm looking forward to talking about Persona a little bit more. I didn't want to really get too deep into it this episode. But again, guys, thanks so much for your support. Greg, anything before we sign off here?
Any words of wisdom? Just be good to each other. And let's hope for, good things to continue in 2021. But, yeah, with everything that's going on, just remember that's not how most people act, and just appreciate life and each other and what you have and who you're with.
Right. Yeah, I've been a victim of some of that myself. Like, just trying to understand the rationale behind some people's actions, but I guess we just gotta, as we always say here, be cool to one another. I'll open that up, I guess, early. But if you like the show, again, please listen wherever you do podcast apps, and YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple. You know how it is. It's especially helpful if you tell a friend. I actually owe some people some stickers I got to send out from Patreon. Again, you can support us directly on patreon.com/breadradio. We're at a state right now where anything that goes in there is coming directly back into the show, so we do appreciate it. There's merch available at breadradio.live. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn those notifications on, follow the podcast, all of that helps. And if you want to interact with us, you can find me on Twitter at It's Bread Time, or you can email breadradiolive@gmail.com. 2021 is going to be a big year for Bread Radio. Again, December was our biggest month of listens yet. We're over 1,000 listens for the entire show, which is amazing. So again, we couldn't and wouldn't do this without you. And we appreciate you guys being here. So take care of one another, and we'll see you next week. Bread and Greg out.